Who is your favorite Genshin character? If there's one question about Genshin which gets asked the most, this has to be it. Teyvat is filled with unique and interesting characters with vibrant personalities and unique playstyles, so it's only natural for people to feel drawn to them and claim one or two as their own. But for the longest time, I never really had an answer. When someone asked, I'd end up listing a good dozen characters or more and always felt like I'd still left someone out. Until, that is, a little cabbage child came and stole my heart.
I've been waiting for you for ages.
I first tried Genshin because they added Aloy, one of my favorite video game characters of all time, as a crossover character, but within minutes fell in love with the world of Teyvat and the people who lived there. Since Aloy isn't part of the story in any sense, she gradually faded into the background for me as I got to know more of the Genshin characters. I had pretty bad luck early on getting the characters I really wanted. I started around the time of Raiden's first banner, which was swiftly followed by Kokumi's debut. I adored the design of both of them, but didn't manage to get them at the time, plus their part in the story felt like a distant horizon at the time. Out of the characters you do meet early on in the story, the one I really wanted was Jean, so naturally I lost my 50-50 to Gigi instead. Despite that, some of my early characters did stand out. For example, Bennett, Thoma and Keqing were all pretty great. But even though I liked them a lot and enjoyed using them, they didn't quite feel like favorites yet. Over time, I got more attached to the characters I used the most, and I pulled new ones as well. I even learned to love my Gigi. I soon got both Xiao and Albedo, then Raiden and Kokumi eventually came home, then there was Yelan and Yoimiya, and Ayaka and Ayato, and eventually it became a meme that when asked who my favorite was, I would list almost half the cast. The last thing I ever expected was for one character to ever come along and actually blow them all away, and finally make it easy for me to answer that question. Sumeru's release was a hugely anticipated event, and to say I was excited would have been an understatement. I was particularly looking forward to the new characters. One of the Sumeru preview teasers gave us a glimpse of many who may be coming soon, and while I liked the look of several, one of them really stood out. Nahida was introduced as a mysterious girl, though it was fairly obvious it was Lesser Lord Kusanali, the god of Dendro. Even from this first glimpse, I knew I would love her. I loved the detailed yet simple designs of her outfit and accessories, and the colour scheme is sheer perfection. The little child characters tend to cause an intense case of cute aggression and must be cherished and protected at all costs, which was especially triggered by her forlorn expression. Her aesthetics really spoke to me, so what remained to be seen was her personality, her backstory and her gameplay. She wasn't expected to be released until a few months later, but straight away I decided to start saving to make sure I could get her. The Sumeru region itself was incredible, with lush rainforests overflowing with life, and the desert area visible just beyond the edge of the map. The amount of content to play through was overwhelming. One of the highlights of that patch for me was the second Sumeru Archon quest, because we finally got to meet Nahida. The quest itself was a Groundhog Day style loop, which was an interesting experience, if a little frustrating. After playing through the same event a couple of times, the traveller spots Nahida lurking in the crowd and chases after her. Nahida's personality is adorable, a perfect blend of innocence and wisdom. She also harbours a lot of self-doubt, overshadowed by her predecessor, imprisoned and abused by those who should have been her followers. Her two trailers were released shortly after, and both were brilliant. Her character demo showcased her innocence and joy, and how that would be expressed in her playstyle. Her birthday trailer did a great job of recapturing the feel of the Sub-Zera's festival quest, ending with Nahida left in chains, which really upped my anticipation for the rest of the story. Nahida needed to be rescued. From there, her story went on from strength to strength across the following updates, as we learned more about her troubled past, her mistreatment at the hands of the Academia, and helped her finally understand the intent of her predecessor. The story ends with one of the most heartbreaking moments in any video game, with Nahida letting go of the one thing she truly wanted, the very memory of Rukkhadevata and her self-sacrifice in order to save the world. I felt this story was a real step up from the previous ones in Genshin. It still had rough edges and was a little long at times, but where previous ones had felt like a good story, poorly told, this felt like a great story with good execution, and it truly cemented her place as my favourite character in the story. At the end, Nahida has already grown so much as a character, finally finding her confidence and taking on the mantle of being a true Archon. One little detail which really stood out to me was the absolutely brilliant use and reuse of one particular piece of music. One of the standout songs in Genshin is called For Riddles, For Wonders. I vividly remember first hearing it while exploring Sumeru for the first time, and how it felt calm, idyllic, and full of life, a perfect fit for the region. This same song is the background of the climax of Nahida's story, which completely changed its meaning. It's still beautiful and full of hope, but at the same time it evokes sadness, regret, and memories of loved ones lost. I can't think of a more subtle and brilliant use of music in any game. So Nahida's appearance, personality, and story absolutely blew me away. I wished for her as soon as I could and won my 50-50 to get her at the first attempt. So what about her gameplay? Everything about her kit is simply adorable. Her normal attack animations are her playing hopscotch on an imaginary keyboard. Her charge attack makes a cursor appear and drag to select enemies, and her tap skill spins a cursor around her while her hold skill switches her to a photo mode. Her idle animations are incredibly cute, and even the voice lines are just perfect. One especially made me laugh. We had a running joke at the time sparked by a co-op clip where I said, "What if we held hands?" And my friend Sino pulled his hand away. This then happened several later times with different characters, and even once with one of my cats. So when I first used Nahida's skill and she said,
Everyone hold hands!
my heart melted even more. Nahida's playstyle was every bit as fun as it looked, and she provides extremely strong Dendro application, great support utility, and a surprising amount of damage when built right. She's very quickly earned a reputation of one of, if not the best character in the game, since she enables an incredible variety of different teams. I tend to use her as a support rather than a DPS, and she's often the first person on my team sheet. Since I mostly play on PlayStation, I do have the disadvantage of her photo mode having a painfully slow rotation speed, but it's easy enough to work around that by dashing to an appropriate spot before casting. Her burst and skill both last longer than their cooldown, so it's easy to fit her around requirements of other characters. She shines in everything from Hypercarry Sino to quick swap teams with no focus character. She's also fairly flexible in her build as well. I've tried her with multiple different weapons, artifact sets, and main stat priorities, and she's done the job every single time. An early favourite was a Favonius Codex build, which gave her more energy recharge than she realistically needs, but which makes her a fantastic battery in addition to her other roles. With two 2-piece elemental mastery sets and an EM main stat where possible, this was a comparatively low effort build despite its strength. She's arguably an even stronger support or sub DPS with a sacrificial fragments, wandering even star or mappa mare, or with a more attack minded build she can use any of the crit related catalysts. When her rerun came around, I pulled on her banner in the hopes of getting some constellations for Layla and snagged her C1, and also got lucky on the weapon banner, so she's got her ideal weapon on my account now and shines even more. Overall, Nahida is pretty much the perfect character for me, and I love everything about her. She's strong, cute, innocent and wise, and whenever she's around she makes everything better. If you've missed out on her last banner, definitely make sure to save up so you can bring her home next time. You definitely won't regret it. Until next time!